Yeah, I think at all positions, the deeper you get into the season, there's a rotational element. So we're trying to get a lot of guys in there, get some reps involved. So that was part of that. He practiced the rest of the practice.
Glenn, what are some of the things you guys are keying in on with the USC defense? They've done a really good job generating pressure to start the season. Are there any specific kinds of concepts that they're running that you guys are looking at?
I think they do a lot of great things. You talk about pressure and then you talk about turnovers. I think they lead the country maybe in turnovers, right? Interceptions, a lot of interceptions. So they do a good job. Obviously, they got guys around the ball to create some problems. They play hard. Obviously, they're athletic, big. They got a couple guys up front that are, definitely productive. As far as both run and pass game. So, and they don't do necessarily a lot, but what they do it well. So I think it's a nice challenge, and our guys are excited for it. Yeah, I think there's some similarities formationally, right? So they do some spread stuff and they do some bigger personnel grouping. So there's been some good stuff, formationally that we've been able to take from it. But I think just throughout the season, there's a nice sample size as far as things that we can take a peek at and see what we can try to take advantage of.
The conversations you have with Sean took over kind of him weighing in on what you'd like to see from the offense. What's that been like? And how much of a process is that going to be when you're also getting ready for opponents?
Right. Yeah, it's unique, but I think we obviously have a prior relationship before the kind of what had happened. So we'd already even within our offensive room, we had those conversations. How are we evolved? What are we? What's our identity? And we're still in the evolution process of that a little bit, right? So, but it's been fun to see. Obviously, he's got unique insight to the offensive side of the ball because he has been in that room. But that's something we continue to try to pick apart and figure out what's best for us.
Still not getting as many third shorts as we'd like to. Is that primarily not executing on first and second downs, do you think, or
Well, that's it. I think we had 5 off the top of my head last weekend, 5 third and 11 pluses, right? Whether it be quarterback pressures, a penalty, right? This is 2 games in a row. Early in the game, we've had an explosive call back because of a penalty, and that try to overcome that stuff. So, we just can't beat ourselves in those instances. And then, when we talked about this a couple weeks ago, when we have got to 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, obviously we have to convert those and take advantage because percentage-wise, that's where you should, be ahead of the chains and do what you need to do.
Especially when you're going up against a team like Utah, very good against the run. What have you thought about your ability to get run replacement type things that give you some yardage to be in those certain situations? How does that connect?
As far as RPOs or
RPOs.
yeah, quick games. Yeah, I think we've tried to utilize all that. We were able to hit a few of those in the game. We felt like there were some more opportunities that we left out there. There were times we tried to be aggressive, and maybe didn't connect for whatever reason. So I think you kind of try to play all those avenues to stay ahead of the chains, but also not be defensive. You still want to be proactive and aggressive when you can be. But, it's that fine line for sure. And then when you don't take advantage of it and get yourself in a 2nd and 10, then you obviously have to get back in schedule the next play.
We only see 3 periods of practice, but in those periods, we saw the 2 quarterbacks over the net where you get the first extra reps. Is that just an evaluation development sort of an aspect?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. No, you're good. It was just as we get deeper in the season, you're trying to get more guys reps. There's a maintenance element, right? So, but he practiced the rest of the practice.
Coach, given some of the protection issues this past week against Utah, you're now going up against USC to do some things differently up front, front 4, front 6. Sometimes they drop linemen under coverage to bring a linebacker behind. Talk to some of the linemen. What are some of the keys that you're sort of trying to get the linemen to understand going up against that kind of plan?
Well, I think it's a collective conversation. I mean, players are included, coaches are included, schemes included. I think those are all things that we're taking into consideration. I thought we did a better job as the game went on in protection. I think there was like 4 sacks maybe in the first half and then just 1 in the second half. So I think as the game went on, we adjusted a little bit offensively as far as what they were doing schematically, and I think that helped us. But obviously we got to start the game off faster to keep the protection, to keep the quarterback in the pocket clean, particularly early in the game.
How important will communication be, especially now? USC, they'll rush forward and
Yeah, not only 5, but also the running back, obviously, right? So, you have your slide or your man principles. I think there's a lot of elements involved. So, all parties, including the quarterback, right? So, if you're talking about 5 O-line, running back, quarterback, all parties are involved. But you're exactly right. Those 4 rushers, who are they going to be? And then figuring out how the back end, separates out accordingly.
From either a game plan or play calling standpoint, when you're going up against a team that you know has really good offense on their side, does that have any influence on how you're building your team might do on a week?
Yeah, I think a little bit, but I don't think you can get totally skewed by that. At the end of the day, you have to do what you do. I think last week the Oregon State game is probably an example of that, right? They just kind of did what they did, and it shook out how it shook out. I think you kind of have that in the back of your mind, but at the end of the day, you have to do what you do, whether it be huddle, control the ball, run the ball, play action, whatever the case may be, and then adjust as the game, proceeds.
Shot play, lack of success in certain situations. Would you expect that to be on average a little bit higher than what you guys have been able to accomplish?
Yeah. I think we need it to be higher. I mean, just from an explosive standpoint, we need to create some explosives. Not only both in the pass game, which we're trying to manufacture, but also in the run game, which we've been able to do a little bit. But we need to definitely amp up our explosives for sure. Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, I think, the last couple of weeks we've had some close ones, whether it be off a fingertip or, maybe just a touch too long or something like that. So I think it's close. We've talked about that this week specifically, like we have to convert on some of those, which obviously not only creates momentum offensively, but changes field position, the whole deal, right? There's definitely a ripple effect in the positive. Yeah, I think that would be ideal. With that, we knew, particularly last week with Utah. I mean, even going into the week, we knew it was going to be 8-man spacing. We knew it was going to be loaded box. So you have to kind of pick and choose when that's going to happen. I think you can control that a little bit with personnel formations, those type things. So I think there's that element for sure. And then as the game progressed, obviously we got away from X a little bit more. So the more that he's involved, the better off we're going to be. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, I think that's been a positive. I mean, not only post-game, but during the game, when I've been able to talk to him on the sidelines between series, I've been pleased with what he sees, his conversation we've had back and forth, and then even to the next series, how we've learned from that and maybe done something different. There was a couple plays in the game, for example, that we talked about what happened and then did something different for the good later on. So I've been pleased, not only post-game conscious awareness, but also in between series. I think he's done a nice job with that. So I think that's a sign of his maturity and how he's growing as a quarterback. I think that my main job is to show him why, right? Like, why are we doing what we're doing? What are we trying to get accomplished by this formation, this concept, versus this look? And once those guys understand why we're doing it and how it's supposed to look like, I think that gives them confidence from an execution standpoint. So the more that we can do that, not only from film study, but practice, scout team, so forth, I think that they go into a game with a confidence and feel like we can execute with what we're trying to get done. Yeah, I think it's positive. I think they're excited. I think they're, like you say, I think they're close, right? There's a play here or there. It comes down a little bit more to getting in front of the chains, right? Staying on schedule. When you get yourselves in 3rd and 13, 3rd and 14, it's an uphill battle. So I think there's an awareness of that, and they understand that we are close. It's just a matter of executing, and I think we have the pieces in place. We just need to get it done on a more consistent basis. Yeah, the whole offense, we've talked about it, right? And it's not necessarily, it's probably more attributed to like tip balls, right? It's not necessarily throwing into coverage, it's more a tip ball, guys being around the ball and catching it that way than necessarily throwing it right to them. So that's been conversations with the receivers. You know, if, hey, it gets on your hands, we got to catch the ball, right? Tip it up in the air, bad things are going to happen. So we've talked about it offensively, not just with quarterbacks.
So just about that positive mentality, like Waddle has mentioned that he wants to show his grace before he that rock. How much do you think of that positive mentality comes from what Waddle has on top of these last weeks?
I think it's a big part of it. I mean, I think the guys are in a great place. You know, obviously the last week or two transitioning with kind of the format of practice, the intensity, the urgency in practice. I think that translation has really been a positive. Our transition's been a positive. I think they're in a great place mentally. And again, I think they can feel that we're pretty close. We just got to be more consistent in that execution.
Do you feel like that transition from Waddle is complete? Like, do you feel like it's going to take a little time?
I think it's an ongoing deal. I mean, I think there's evolution, there's conversation, there's identity. You know, it's all those type things. But I think Sean's done a fantastic job. I think everybody's confident in what he's doing and where we're headed. Yeah, I think that's a fine line. It's something we talk about weekly. He has been a little bit, in the game plan. Has it necessarily come out in the game? Not necessarily. But I think we kind of pick and choose when that happens. Maybe more so in some games than others. I think it's just an individual or week-to-week basis.
Coach, this past week we saw they're one of their best corners, Clark Phillips, right down six in that game. This upcoming one, there's a guy like Mike Blackman on the other side. Is there any sort of player in your secondary that you don't really feel comfortable throwing in an area, or it's more just overall execution?
Yeah, I think it's just execution. You know, obviously they have some big, long linebackers that we know about. They got a couple of D linemen, again, that are going to be disruptive in the pass pro. So I think it's a big picture thought for us as far as getting the guys where we feel like we need to be and then executing from there.